welcome to Brand X Reviews. Today we have a two-part video with myself and my co-reviewer John. We're going to be talking about Get Woke, Go Broke, with things like G4TV and Disney from a culture war perspective. So here it is, enjoy.
Kind of overdue anyway, because all this stuff went down back in January, didn't it, with the G4TV controversy where we had this presenter going off on one and attacking the audience effectively. Basically, the gist of it I get, because I'm not into gaming, I've never heard of G4TV. Obviously got John Bailey on the video here to talk about this because you're more into gaming culture, that kind of thing. And I'll give you the floor in a moment, but my knowledge of this was based on sort of the message, which is this thing that kind of has gone throughout movie franchises and TV franchises and stuff over the last few years. And it absolutely, as I'm aware of, even though I'm not into computer games and stuff, I'm aware of like Gamergate, all that stuff. And this whole Frosk thing was just her having a go at the audience for being sexist or whatever. But it ties in with the culture war more sort of broadly. Obviously, it's at the heart of just the most basic politics. I mean, in the UK, we've got this Labour Party, which is far left, hugely into identity politics, every bit as far as the far right wing are as well. So instead of fighting guys like Nick Griffin and the BNP and all these other people back in the day, now we're kind of got our backs against the walls with these far left identitarian people. In fact, I'll just play a quick clip from last year's Labour conference as a montage. This is how much of this they have weaponised identity politics. It's not that we're against any of the people that they say that they stand for. It's the weaponisation of using them as a battering ram to push through otherwise unpopular political policies such as socialism and so on. So I'm just going to edit that in right quick.
Comrades, comrades,
transgender comrades, trans comrades, comrades,
LGBT plus comrades,
comrades, LGBT plus community, LGBT plus young people,
LGBT plus people, LGBT plus people, LGBT plus people, LGBTQ plus, LGBT plus pay gap, trans and non-binary, trans and non-binary.
We are not leavers and remainers, we are socialists!
To fight imperialism, to truly defeat it, we must do so on a class basis, on the basis of socialist internationalism and working class solidarity.
I stand before you as a trans woman, a lesbian and a Pisces. I know, right? LGBT, why can't they have a better acronym than that? LGBTQ+.
I note that yesterday evening, one of the Fringe events was held by a transphobic hate group.
Delegates are being asked to vote for members of the National Constitutional Committee, and there is no gender quota in that ballot. That is outrageous.
We must end capitalism, and we can only do that with a Labour government led by Jeremy Corbyn.
So basically we had that anyway, in terms of how this kind of culture war stuff is in the heart of politics, but it's also in our culture now as well, to the point where you can't even play computer games or go to the cinema anymore without this being in your face. So that's my kind of thoughts on this. Obviously, I brought you on here to talk about it because you know quite a lot about gaming culture. What's your knowledge of G4? I mean, is this something that you remember from back in the day?
It's something, right, I'm going to be straight honest about this. G4, I think I missed G4 when it came out. I think I'm of that sort of age group where G4 came about, and I think I'm about, I would say 5 to 10 years too old for it, if that makes sense. So what I mean in that sense is I was already finding my gaming information out through places like Eurogamer by there's websites that don't exist anymore. I want to say CVG. They were a really good website. I looked at IGN. IGN always provided information on when gaming stuff was going to be released. And I remember thinking, I wish Games Master used to be on in the United Kingdom years and years.
Yeah.
And Dominic Diamond ran that. Now, I remember thinking it'd be great if there was some sort of channel or regular program that was dedicated to gaming. And whilst this was going on, because this is pre mass streaming, and mass sort of. We never got G4 over here that I remember, and if I did, it's something I wasn't very aware of. But I sort of heard of names that came from it, such as Olivia Munn, and I started to, after G4 went the first time, I started to look into things, and I started to realise that, oh, this sort of thing could have been a power for good. Why did it disappear? Because let's not forget, gaming is probably, in terms of entertainment, it probably generates more income than any other form of entertainment globally. And that's a simple fact. You know, people love to go to films, but when you think what you pay per unit for a game, which is around 70 to 80 pounds, you can see why it is going to make far more money than a 10 to 20 pound Blu-ray. That's just fact.
Yeah.
So when you've got G4 come back to life, I was kind of interested in it, and I thought I'll just let it bed in before I get before I sort of make a judgment on it, because there's obviously going to be things said or things done that people will disagree with. There'll be presenters who, you know, it can be very awkward. For example, IGN do this thing called the Daily Fix, and everybody who does the Daily Fix, the two who I remember were Jessica Chobot, Naomi Kyle. Anybody who does it for the first couple of weeks, it's a very stunted presentation because you're not yourself. You're reading words that somebody else has written, but you haven't formulated your style, and that's to be expected. What I wouldn't want to do is make a judgment call on somebody whilst they're getting into the flow of things. So if you go back and look at, for example, Jessica Chobot, when she did her first Daily Fix and when she did her last, it's night and day difference. Somebody is very comfortable at what they do. They're not conscious of the camera. They're not conscious if they make mistakes. Mistakes happen. It's just what it is, and it's brilliant to watch. And then I came across Frosk. I don't know where to begin. There was something off about her from day one, and I mean something off about her, and I couldn't work out what it was. And I think it's well known. Anybody who's been into gaming will understand this one. She did this. She was doing a segment, and what she was supposed to be doing got took up at the last minute. And then she decided she was going to talk about sexism in gaming. She was going to talk about herself not being as bangable as Olivia Munn. And I use her words, not mine.
Yeah.
She was talking about not wanting to be, she's not there to be objectified. She talks about the reviews that she does. She acknowledges that every single presenter doesn't do their own reviews. There's a team of people behind it.
Yeah.
So I was like, my jaw was dropping at this point, just with that news. And then she then further says to it, if you don't like it, don't watch. So what you have done, peace. And then as the sort of like everybody's going, you go, Frost. And then, everybody, you've got this sort of really loud noise coming from the audience. And there's a couple of pieces where you see and she looks up and she's just like, as if to sort of like think, I am the dog's bollocks. I am everything and more.
Yeah.
See, I'm going to be a news anchor within a week. And
yeah, I'm sure the young Turks will be recruiting her, and somebody will have her skills in no time.
It was horrendous, bud. It was truly horrendous because she systematically destroyed an audience. And what I mean by that is you've got people who are gamers. Now, the people who watch things like G4, who watch IGN Daily Fix, they're not watching it because the casual viewers, they are watching it because they want every bit of information that they can get. And they want it delivered to them in a manner that is very easy. And easy on the eye, easy on the ears. And by easy on the eye and ears, I don't mean somebody who's necessarily physically attractive. What I mean is somebody who can present it in a way that is immediately relatable. Somebody who looks like they are enthusiastic about what they are doing.
Yeah.
Ross did not look for a second like she had any enthusiasm or respect for the audience. It was almost like they went through a mass before G4 collapsed. They had a mass redundancy. On the day where everybody got made redundant, she had put up another tone deaf tweet, which was, I survived.
Yeah, I heard about that.
oh man, her colleagues have just been told they have no future. They've got 2 months redundancy, I think it is. They lose healthcare because that's America, isn't it? You know, you've got to pay for healthcare. And she's going, I survived. It's absolutely abhorrent. And this isn't a dig at somebody for how they look, for their politics, for anything like that. It is simply she has destroyed and alienated her audience. Anybody who is, and I'm a big gamer, but when I game the most, it's often because I've got things going on in my personal life which I'm trying to ignore. So I want that. I want to use the right word. I want that sort of information. I want to be able to game. I want to be able to get excited for a game. I want to be able to get excited because somebody else who I'm watching is excited, and he's excited that the product and the content is coming their way. You know, even when there's game delays, which thankfully more and more games now are being delayed when they aren't ready. So we're now going out of, instead of getting things on time and buggy, we are now getting them on late, but in a really playable state. And I think that's credit to gaming studios now of taking that risk and taking the decision that people will still buy this game. And because it's not ready, we're not going to give you it. And I think that's absolutely the right thing to do. But when somebody sits there, and if you've got things going on in your own life, and then you are watching somebody who is meant to be geeing you up about games and talking about games, and he's actually just dissecting you and saying you are effectively you can't rely on what I'm saying because I haven't written this. Why would you want to go watch that? Why would you have any interest in what that is? You don't want any. Why would you have any interest in that sort of message? That's the word I was looking for. Message.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's been channels I've followed in the past, and they've kind of changed, not a fundamental level like this, where they've just basically repurposed a show, like in real time, like during the show, they actually repurposed it. So we're going to talk about Red Dead Redemption, and now we're going to talk about sexism in gaming, literally just changing the course, bait and switch. But I've seen channels that have done that. Yeah, go on.
Sorry, I'm just saying she's sort of gone on the 20th of November yesterday. While we're on about it, Batman is going about fighting crime in the absolute worst possible way for the resources at his disposal.
All right, okay, whatever. Speaking of Batman, did you hear about the thing that G4TV were doing? Somebody who'd interviewed for a job there had been put through this process where one of the questions he said was, right, okay, Batman has to be cancelled, as in cancel culture, not like the show has to be cancelled or the comic book. Batman as a person has to be cancelled. Why would you do it? Apparently the right answer was because he's white and rich. And that was the kind of culture that they were promoting. That was during the interview process, according to this person that spoke about it. That was a story that came out a few days ago. So it's just this hatred of the audience, given that a lot of people will be, you know, in the US, obviously a large part of the population are white. Kind of goes without saying, if you've got a hatred for on that kind of level for what is going to be a large majority of the audience, surely this isn't a viable business strategy. I mean, all morals aside, I mean, you can do what you want to do, hate who you want to hate, but if you're founding a business on that basis, it's not going to last long.
No, it isn't. And if we go one step further, that culture seems to have seeped well into Marvel. You look at Blade, if I've heard that right, they're making a film about Blade who goes and hunts vampires, and there's going to be a film with 2 action sequences in.
Yeah.
What are they going to do with Blade? Make him, you know, I'm going to protest you to stop eating humans. What the hell? I just don't understand where things are going. And like what you've just said there, I've just had to let that play over in my head. We'd cancel Batman because he's rich and he's white.
And the Punisher as well. The Punisher was another one they were saying for the similar sort of thing. I think the point was they were saying that if Batman was black, he wouldn't get away with it. So, well, which iteration of Batman are we? I mean, we have some version of Batman work with the police, like the Robert Pattinson one kind of does, and the Adam West one does, and then you've got other ones where he's like fundamentally on the run, like Christian Bale's. You know, it doesn't make sense.
But Batman has a mask. to me, it wouldn't matter who is underneath that mask because
Yeah.
Batman is Batman. You know, that's the thing, isn't it? You know, it would, to me, it just wouldn't matter if they made Bruce Wayne. If I just don't understand it. I don't understand what people are getting at there at all, because Batman was written and it's been written for years. And what I struggle with it, Joseph, I really do, and I'm trying not to swear, because if I let rip, I'm going to let rip, and I really don't want to do that, because I think that makes it a very low denomination. But it's very hard not to get agitated by people who are trying to cancel things. It's like, look at the recent Phase 4 in Marvel. Phase 4 I think we can say, you and I, we enjoyed phases 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Phase 4, I have watched some bits and I haven't watched others. So, for example, I watched the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. I enjoyed it. I will refuse to watch She-Hulk on the basis that they've turned the Hulk into somebody who, what's the word that they do? You know, it's sort of like almost, you know, they sort of sit there like that, and there's a word, isn't there, where it's basically you empty your head and you forget about things. It begins with an M, I think. You know what I'm trying to say? And I just don't understand why they're doing this, and then they turn it into a sitcom. I just don't understand what happened with Phase 4, and it's quite clearly more appealing to a vocal minority of the audience.
Well, they spend too much time listening to social media, thinking that that's the audience, that's the real world as well, when it really isn't.
They should they should listen to where the money's being spent. That's surely that tells you what the audience wants. If the audience is spending money on something, isn't that what they want? Yes, I agree that there should be opportunities for things to change. Let's diversify things, but don't do it en masse and assume that everybody's going to be happy with it, because that isn't a way to bring about effective change, I don't believe.
Yeah, and they're spending way too much money on these films as well. It's mental. I mean, we've just seen like a budget announcement for I forget which one it was now, but it's pretty much any of these that are coming out going forward. And you talk about Blade as well. I mean, for years, the Wesley Snipes Blade films were the standard for superhero movies. I mean, he had like the X-Men were quite popular, and Spider-Man to a degree, but before that, I mean, Blade, I think it was made in like 97, came out in 98. For years, it was like to the point when the Dark Knight trilogy was like getting announced, when Batman Begins were coming out. It was a question: is this going to be as good as Blade? To the point where they got the same writer, David S. Goyer, on board to do that. So
I used to like Hellboy as well, the Ron Perlman versions.
Yeah.
I thought they were, you know, they give it is exactly what is in the comic. That's the key, isn't it? What was written in the comic book, and I think is the source material. And if your source material is telling you something, go with that source material. Don't try to change what has been written before. If you want to bring about change, start a new storyline and then get that filmed. That's how I feel about that.
Yeah. No, we're talking about budgets. I was thinking of the new Fast and Furious film, which stars Brie Larson as well, because we all know she's a fan favourite. It's like
box office.
Yeah, so they spend too much money on these movies and then attack the audience when they don't go the way they want. Whereas you have films like The Joker, which personally wasn't a film for me, but I understand a lot of people liked it for the right reasons, because they thought it was a good film. They spent like nowhere near as much money as they do on normal superhero movies, and you know, whether or not it was comic book accurate or whatever, it was a performance, and the audience got attacked for liking it, and were you know, it was accusations of incels being the predominant fans of the movie, and that's the reason why it was popular, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Well, there's no it's popular because Joker is a popular character. I really didn't like Joker, as you know.
I didn't.
When we see that together, there were about
Yeah.
6 times where I think I said to you, I'm really ready to leave, because it was, I think one bit that really got me nearly out of my seat was when he was walking down the steps and suddenly a Gary Glitter song started playing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell am I hearing here? And it just confused me. Why would you put in that
Yeah.
into like that?
Well, there is a
But yeah.
sequel coming out, and it's a musical, so maybe the Lost Prophets can do the soundtrack, possibly. It's just an idea.
So that again, I knew there were a sequel, but did you just say they're doing a musical?
Yeah, Lady Gaga's going to be in it as Harley Quinn. It's an interesting direction, but at least it's not going to be woke. Probably.
That's surreal. That'll be something that I will want to see how horrific the performances are.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I can't think of anything similar to that they've done. So I'm interested, not from a point of view like, oh, I want to go see that, but I'd be interested to see. Yeah, but not. Yeah, well, yeah, but not like as in a Joker movie or a superhero movie, but whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll... Yeah, it'd be strange, will that, my friend? Very, very strange. But things have... I don't know what goes on. I was reading this weekend that Bob Iger's coming back in at Disney. So is that an acknowledgement from Disney that the last, well, effectively Phase 4 has been a mistake? How would you take that?
Does seem that way, yeah. I was going to try to keep this video fairly short for rendering, so let's break it down into 2 parts. So just hold that thought for 1 second.